what we focus on and what we are 100% the elite. Recovery requires this. Recovery requires this, and without it, you cannot get good recovery, period. That's why I'm going to pause for a second, go back to this nerve chart. Not only are we going to adjust your spine, your neck, your mid-back, to get motion, to get this space back for your spinal joints, okay, we're going to open up, wrong model, we're going to open up those spaces so that these nerves flow. Ladies and gentlemen, all right, it's Dr. Livingston here, coming at you with another great, amazing session. As always over promise and under deliver. Just kidding, it's the opposite. Okay, what I wanted to talk to you about today is, this is specifically for boxes, gyms, fitness facilities that we work with. I always talk about recovery with you guys. Most of you know that I do a lot of work with other doctors, surgeons, attorneys, etc. And the reason we always talk about the spine and severe injuries, or that's what you hear me talk about most, is because it's usually it's that field that we've got to really hammer home, like how important these injuries are and how bad they are. But if I'm going to get that injury that's super severe, that, let's say, and you're not supposed to be able to read this yet, okay? That's the trick. Let's say the injury is super severe and you're on a spectrum. This is recovery, okay? You're on a spectrum that you have an injury, okay? Let's start with, what is the most important injury that we're going to focus on? Yes, if you're an athlete, if it's an extremity injury and you can't throw, that's extremely important. But where does even more important function come from than just your arm? Your spine. Because without your spine, guess what? You can't rotate to throw that arm. And you guys know that, you just don't think about it. Or at least you don't think about it more than you think about, oh, it's just my shoulder. No, but you got to visualize, oh, what's the shoulder attached to, right? So I want you to start to think about that, and here's why. Because things are extrapolated from, but also directly tied to your shoulder. For example, lung function, heart function. That's why you have these amazing charts over here. When you look up in an anatomy book and you go to med school, or even if you're just like undergrad rehab science or exercise physiology, something of that nature, you are going to talk about the anatomy and musculoskeletal system, right? But dig deeper, because attached, those muscles attach to stuff, and eventually you get to the spine. You get to the spine, and the spine controls and coordinates everything. So your shoulder issue, whatever is causing your shoulder issue, we talk about the very severe injuries, is also likely causing the severe injury that's causing that issue with my person who's injured in a crash, also ends up causing them a shoulder injury, also causes them heart, lung issues, balance, coordination, because look where these nerves go to. They go to your vision. That's why people after crashes have that. That's why after let's say you play football or hockey and you get jarred, guess what? You have the same physiological reactions. Maybe not to the severity and the degree, but oftentimes you can, because you can be skating very fast on ice, and just like a car, boom, you may not have 2 tons of force coming at you like you are in a car, which is why attorneys, if you happen to be an athlete that's an attorney listening to this, you just get a double whammy in a crash, because you've got all that force of the car as well. If I can get you from a super severe injury all the way to 100% performance, which is what an athlete needs of their body to run a 4-4, to run and sprint, duck, dive, dip, dodge, right? To do all those things, you need full capacity. So when I fix injuries, I can fix the whole gradient. The treatment ends up being the same, right? So like an athlete's focus is not, or should not be, to prevent an ankle injury, but in focusing on performance, we're going to prevent an ankle injury. Now, it's the same application to an injury patient, but I'm not going to talk about it the same way. Okay, and they're going to start on a different area of the spectrum of the scale. Make sense? Okay. Gyms, etc. We are the elite in healthcare. You have a lot of the boxes that I work with, CrossFit. That's like a CrossFit gym for those that don't know CrossFit. They call them boxes. Boxes that we work with, elite athletic facilities. They want to call themselves elite. Why? Because they take it seriously. They take the training seriously. They bust their butt to get into tip-top shape. Okay? But here's the caveat. Here's the problem. You do not have someone on your healthcare team that is functioning at an elite level. Right? You do not have someone on your healthcare team that is functioning at an elite level. Right? That's where I come in. That's where we come in. We are the performance and recovery experts. Why? Because we're the only people that focus on the joints and the function, the nervous system that controls and regulates everything. It controls. Getting your joint range of motion back is important because you get the joint, when we adjust your joints, we're focusing on arthrokinematics. So we're getting the joint, we're getting the function back to that joint. Once you do that, or while you're doing that, what you're focusing on and getting back is this space to move. Okay, what do I mean by that? That means I'm adjusting your joint so that when you turn and you keep hitting an area of the spine, let me grab a model. You keep hitting an area of the spine. Let's grab a couple more. You get an area of the spine. Okay, here's two joints. Happen to be vertebrae or your spine. Okay, when you go to turn and these joints smack up against each other, you go to rotate and you'll see these facets. Okay, these facets here. Okay, when you bend forward and backwards, these facets open, and when you turn, they smash up against each other. See? Turn. When you get to the point where you turn and boom, you get pain, or boom, those joints don't even move because there's so much damage and debris and injury in those joints. You need those joints adjusted, and that is focusing on the space to move. Now that we've adjusted it, we've cleared that joint, we've gotten the debris out, kind of like debriding a knee injury, and you're ripping out the scar tissue. Oftentimes you can do a non-invasive adjustment to that joint just to get it to start gliding properly. Okay, but that's just getting you the space to move back. You do not yet have way more important things than just the space to move. Okay? And that's where no other doctor can touch this, and that is what we do. We are also going to help you by working on the muscular component, which is what you're all super familiar with, weight training exercises. Okay? Training your muscles and your athletic skills to move, to explode better, right? Weight training, explosive training, plyometrics. Okay, all of those things that you're super familiar with. But the muscles, once we get the muscles back online, once we get the muscles trained and properly grown, because it's totally different components to grow a thick, large muscle, hypertrophy, versus growing a very strong, dense muscle versus a powerful muscle that can move things, heavy ass weight, real fast, real quick. Okay, that's power, powerlifting. Okay, but still, that's just the muscle. Okay, so that means that if we turn this online, hint, what we're talking about next, if we turn this muscle online, we will have the ability to let the energy create that movement, whether it's a slow, controlled movement for hypertrophy, bodybuilding, muscle mass, or whether it's an explosive movement. We have the muscle tissue that's developed, and it has the proper nutrient supply, which we're not going to get into right now, but given the proper nutrient supply, which includes blood, oxygen, and matter, or physiology, i.e. the muscle fibers are fast twitch, slow twitch, all of that stuff, okay? So that's muscle. So we start with joints. You need the space to move. Muscles, you need the physiological tissue to be there and to be in good health. Okay, we're not going to go down too much of a rabbit hole here, but And then the most important of all, people, which is what we focus on and what we are 100% the elite. Recovery requires this. Recovery requires this, and without it, you cannot get good recovery, period. That's why I'm going to pause for a second, go back to this nerve chart. Not only are we going to adjust your spine, your neck, your mid-back, to get motion, to get this space back for your spinal joints, okay, we're going to open up, wrong model, we're going to open up those spaces so that these nerves flow. What are these nerves that are coming out? I'm going to, it's turned so it looks exactly like this chart here, okay, right there, all right. So these nerves that come out are the nerves that come out and then they go right here, okay? We're again not a rabbit hole discussion for right now, but just trust us. These nerves control a lot of different things. Viscerosomatic, which is organ function, visceral function, sensory function, muscular function, we already talked about, okay? But when we adjust those joints, especially in the spine, we get motion, mobility back to the area, but more importantly, we put the nerve back online. It is a central circuit, like a circuit breaker in your house. If the circuit breaker is shut down, everything that is connected to that circuit breaker doesn't work. You can fix the light in your house as many times as you want, but if the circuit breaker is not on, it ain't the light that you need to replace, i.e. don't replace a heart valve or a kidney when that wasn't the problem in the first place. Nobody looked at your spine. Back to recovery. Back to recovery. So the nerve, fixing the nerve, which is what we just pointed out. What does the nerves have to do with performance and recovery? You've got to get the nerves back online. Get these nerves back online, and then you get what? You get the ability to move. Why do I say the ability to move? Because you still got to make sure that those nerves fire correctly. If the nerves are connected, sometimes you have things like peripheral neuropathy. People that have diabetes, that is not the most common cause of neuropathy. So if you do have diabetes or sciatic radiculopathy or neuropathy, get in, let's check your spine. That is the most common cause. But you can also have dying and atrophy from diabetes and other similar issues of the actual nerve tissue itself. So back to physiology, the tissue is maybe not a muscle tissue, but is a nerve tissue that doesn't have good quality, doesn't have good physiology and structure. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully. Now, break.